Hello, hello, hello. I'm coming from a little bit of a different destination today, different background going on. You've got to switch it up, don't you, Bobbi Jo?
Absolutely. Spice of life.
So if you haven't been watching, I'm Sheena Cantor. Clearly it says there on my name on there, and clearly that's Bobbi Jo because it says Bobbi Jo under there as well. So we've been doing all these conversations and we're sort of following a little plan, but sometimes we go off tangent. But we do have a plan to lead you through somewhere that if you watch them in order, you'll know where we're going, and we're just going to keep repeating that order because it creates a new matrix in our mind. So rather than thinking, what am I going to deal with, there's all this information right here, we're keeping you level with 12 things that you just keep in your mind. Drop every other thought of everything else, and just if it doesn't fit in those 12 things, it's not worth thinking about. So today I thought we'd have a wee chat about fear. It's a good one, isn't it, Bobbi Jo?
Oh, it's a great one. And I like how you say those 12 things. It's kind of like out on a tree that there are those 12 things, but off of that, there's going to stem all these little things. And what are we aiming for here? One, just to have good conversations that people don't talk like the way we do. And also just to stimulate your mind because you've been programmed to think wherever you live in the world, you've been programmed to think and conditioned a certain way. So we just bring new ways of maybe thinking and shifting your perception so that you can just transform your life and live just a fuller, happier, peace of mind life. That's really what we're aiming for here. We just want to help. We want to serve. We talk all the time. So we're like, why don't we just start recording our conversations? So it's the Bobbi Jo and Sheena show. And here we are talking about what? Fear. I know you're going to be good at fear, but fear to me is like the false evidence appearing real, really, and that's it. Right? I forgot. I haven't said that one in a while, but it
Right,
is.
that was good. That was well remembered. I can see fear, fear, fear. Oh, there we go. It came right in.
It did. It popped right in. I was like, oh, I haven't thought about that one in a while. And you know what it is? You have to say, I think Katie Byron, do I really know this to be true? Right? And just sit with the fear, sit with the anxiety, sit with whatever it is. Like, that Fear Factor. I hate to watch that show. I like will skip through the channels sometimes and see that. I don't know if you have that. And like people have to bob for apples and snakes and stuff and whatever. So, that is a fear, but those people don't even die. So it's good to like push yourself and get uncomfortable because that's where the growth is. And Will Smith does a great one on YouTube where he jumps out of an airplane and he talks about it like they're all drunk the night before, like, yeah, yeah, double high five. We're going skydiving tomorrow. Woo. And then it's like he goes home and he's like, yeah, then we're not going to be doing that. And he wakes up in the morning like, uh-oh. And he does it. And he's like, all this fear leads up to it to the time he just jumps out and he realizes there was so much ahead of it that it was built up to it was really actually nothing.
It's the thinking that gets in the way, the thinking about it. I mean, I went to a cold water, waterfall, and it was absolutely freezing. And it took me 5 minutes to get in. And I realized that everything was thought. It was complete thought. That the actual doing of it wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad if I'd have just stopped thinking. So even for myself, when I knew this stuff, I was literally having to have conversations in my head, just going, just get in the border. There's absolutely everything is okay once you're in the border. So I know what it's like. And one of the things you said there about a change of perception, that it is all a journey about awareness. And one of the things that we tend to do whenever we're in fear, it's like going into a dark room and looking for your glasses or something, and you keep searching around in the dark and you're looking and you bang into things and blah, 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 but you don't turn the light on. Because if you turn the light on, then you shine the light on it. Then you can see everything. And where's the darkness then? So most of the time we're running from something, but if we just stop it, think of it this way. I've heard this analogy and I thought it was really good. Think of it whenever you're running, and I actually find that the closer you are to the light, the bigger your shadow. So imagine you're running towards the light, the shadow's chasing you. And the faster you run, the shadow gets bigger and it chases you and chases you. But if you stop and turn around,
Mhm.
then you're chasing the shadow and the shadow runs away from you. How amazing is that? So the way I see it is that everything that we look at is a shadow, and the shadow exists. Like light doesn't exist without the dark. They're both there, but where are you looking? And so if you look at what you're scared of, and some of my clients are really, really scared of that, they just go, I don't want to do that. And I remember sitting with one girl for about half an hour and she goes, I'm not looking there. And it was like something that was over her left shoulder. And she kept doing that. And I says, what's over there? Well, I'm not looking at it. I says, well, look at it. And no, I'm not looking at it. Anyway, it took her half an hour. And when she did finally look and really look at what she didn't want to look at, what really caused her to be most uncomfortable, she actually watched it disappear. Because she looked at it, she became aware of it, and she shone a light on it, and actually it like dissolved. And what we find is when we do that, that actually you sit in the feeling of drop the circumstance, feel the feeling, like Bobbi Jo said, and you end up sitting in a void. And then in that void, if you sit there, love comes up. Like it literally happens in about 30 seconds. So you could spend years running away from something,
Mm.
and you could end it all in 30 seconds.
Hmm. I have a new analogy. Fifth, face your fears. FYF. But face your fears. And you know, and it is like that. I know. You know, Panache, we like to talk about him occasionally because he's a great spiritual leader and he just thinks differently than people. And he says that about like anger. For so many years, we're trying to fix, heal, and change ourselves, you know, and oh, I'm not going to be an angry person. I'm not going to be reactive. And you try to change it. But if you can just stop for a moment, feel the rage, love that part of you know, that fearful part that you don't like that of you, when you can just stop and like it just needs a little attention. Just stop and love yourself for who you are and stop trying to change you. And then that dissolves and it gets softer. And it might not happen right away, but when you do this year after year, like we have been doing, it just slowly does start to dissolve and you're not giving it that energy and you're just loving yourself for who you are and just face those fears. So, you know, maybe you take again, the awareness, I'll say it every day. What do you have the awareness of what you're afraid of? Maybe you don't even realize it because you're just so busy reacting in life that every time you're dropping your kids off, you don't know why you feel this way. But maybe sometime you were like left alone when you were a little girl and your mom never picked you up from school. And there's this fear of, you know, so there's just these things that are deep into our subconscious mind. I always like to do this little triangle because you think of the iceberg. You know, you're only seeing that tip at the top. And there's all this stuff and beliefs and subconscious stuff that we just love to get into the meat of, Sheena and I, and why we behave the way we behave. You know, I just love what we do, Sheena, because I always thought growing up after I was a whitewater rafting guide in all my 30s, I was like, God, if I had ever gone back to school, I'd love to be a psychologist, you know? And then this is it completely. Because all the psychologists I know, I have friends that are in counseling for like 30 years. And I'm like, how's that working out for you? You know, why are you still going? You still talking about your problems you were 30 years ago? Like, stop. So that's the other thing, you know? Stop talking about what you're fearful of and what you're afraid. I mean, yes, you can if you're going to heal it, but then let it go, people. Let it go.
But
Breathe
that's it,
into it.
by actually facing it. You said that, it literally does disappear in 30 seconds. And what sort of talk through whenever everything was just a feeling. And most of the time, it's so when people say they're scared of something, I just go, okay, what does that feeling like? And they describe the feeling. And I go, where else does this show up in your life? And they'll go, oh, actually, all the time. And then I go, see, it's not the circumstance. It is a feeling, it is a vibration that is here. And then because you feel something, and our conscious mind is 6 seconds behind what's going on, like 6 seconds behind, which is just incredible. Who's running this blooming show here? Who's running this show? Who's breathing you now? Anyway, that's another story.
That's a deep rabbit hole.
Katie Byron said that. I remember when she said that, Byron Katie, whenever she said that, who's breathing you now? And that was one of the things that really got me to stop and just really acknowledge that, where am I? What's actually going on? But we have to deal with what we're experiencing right here, right now, as Sheena, as Bobbi Jo, as yourself. And it's just that, so when you pay attention, it's not the circumstance. Drop the circumstance, feel the feeling, because it's not the circumstance. It comes up here, because I guarantee if you sort it out there, it'll pop up here. And if you sort it here, it'll pop out here. It's like the Rubik's Cube. You get it sorted and then it gets messed up. Oh, and it appears here. So I remember doing this on a call with one of my clients, actually. She literally, we got it sorted here. So then she became anxious over something else. And it wasn't until we got to the third thing and I went, hang on a minute. This was in my early days because I wouldn't deal with that now. I just went, hang on a minute. This is a pattern. It's just shifting, 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 and it ends up in something else.
That's a big one to have people have that awareness that they can see that. And so how do you tell people to help you say, okay, I have awareness of it. like writing it out, like really writing the feeling. And Bob, excuse me, didn't Bob talk about that? Feeling is just a word for the vibration we're in. So when we're happy and joyful, we're like, woo, we're vibrating at a good level, right? Bob Marley knows all about those good vibes. But then when we're feeling anxiety or depression or fear, it's a certain vibration. And you got to ask yourself, what is that? What is the root of that? And it is about kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm de-weeding the garden. And you're trying to get to that root of that one that keeps, get the roots out, because otherwise it keeps spreading. That's all I
But
got.
sometimes it's like we may never get to the root of it because there's 13 billion years have gone past, and God knows exactly. God knows what the heck is in our vibration that we think is ours, and this is a called collective consciousness. So it's all one consciousness. It may not be what you're feeling. It could be somebody else's thoughts 2 doors down the road that you just picked up on because you happen to be on the same frequency. And what I noticed as well about myself is that you think of anxiety as fear, but anxiety also comes into hyperactivity, which would have been me. Hyper, 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 and that is also anxiety. And so, one of the things I know that Abraham Hicks says, he says that when you're further away from the source of who you are, which is love, by how you feel. So if you're too hyper, like that's scary. It scares people. I used to scare people by being so hyper and so hypey, hypey. But also whenever you're feeling really, really crap. And the good news is that if you're feeling really, really, really crap, it means you're really, really far away from your source. And it's about coming back. And the only way I know now to come back is love and gratitude. I actually don't think there's anything else in the world that we need to do except love and gratitude and deal with whatever comes up. We have a vision of where we want to go, but to be honest, it's just bait. It's just bait to feel good, you
Yeah.
know,
It
not
is
really to
because it's
feel
about the
good.
moment. You might never really get there. It's about the moment. And that's why I think as children we were so happy because we had the freedom of running in the grass and smelling the air and the birds. We were just so present all the time as children. And then we get to be adults and we're constantly in fear, like, oh, I gotta go to work. It's only Friday night or Saturday and you're thinking about work on Monday, you know? We're just in, oh, isn't that the truth? We're working to survive out there.
Mm.
We're not living enough. So I really like what you said there and wanted to leave it at that, but I forget. You just said something that was so perfect. Live in the present. Oh, about love and gratitude. Absolutely, Sheena, 100%. That's like what I talk about. I gave a speech yesterday and it all comes back to that. And everyone's like, you're doing so great. And I'm like, it's the same message, but you go see Dr. Bruce Lipton or you go see anyone out there, they're
Everybody's
saying
saying the
the same.
same message, aren't they? It's
Yep.
all blah, 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 blah. Love and gratitude.
Yeah. It is. It is. And they say the same stuff and the same stories, but it's like whatever that vibration that you're resonating with and attracting. And you just said it. It's about feeling good. It's about being in the now and being here. And how do we do that? By controlling your mind, by controlling your thoughts and just bring them back. Because something over here in this fear in the future isn't even happening yet. You're going to create it, that's for sure. If you're thinking about it vibrationally, if you don't want to get that flat tire or spill wine on you, guess what? He's gonna cheat on you. Yeah, you're gonna create it. And you're thinking, what? So promise you, stick with us and we'll show you.
I'll finish with this little story that I heard yesterday. It's not word for word. I'm just giving you the essence of it. And it was about how our head is in the future, worrying about what's going to happen, and our heart is in the past, dreaming over things and regret and shame that we should have been there. And the head and the heart were constantly having an argument. And so he was asking, how do I solve this argument? And the answer was, why don't you go and spend some time with your lungs? What do you mean spend some time with your lungs? Well, your lungs are only in the now. They're only inhale, exhale. They cannot think of anything else. They're only here in the now. And when you come to the now, then you will find the peace. So he heard his head and his heart were arguing again. So he dropped into his lungs and he stopped and he went, where have you been? I've been waiting for you.
Mm.
A beautiful story. I mean, it was said better than the way I said it, but you get the idea.
No, I do. And I feel like because the heart's here and the head's here and they kind of just meet, a little bit drop, but it's like it's right there.
Meet,
So
meet with your breath, and that will keep you in the present and slow it down and drop the circumstance, feel the feeling. It will dissolve. I guarantee it. It has done it for every single person who does this. and then sit, and the love will rise. It will rise. How many times you have to do it? You know, in the Bible it says 70 times 7, and that's like forgive yourself 70 times. You know what the word forgive? I love it, for the giving of, forgive. So sit with yourself, forgive yourself for beating yourself up for no reason. You're amazing, you're wonderful. I've got nothing else to say. It's love and gratitude, and that's me done.
Love and gratitude. See you soon.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.